Pat, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern on CRN.
Welcome to Divine Love Talk with Dr. Parthenia Grant, where we talk about health, well-being, and the love of the divine that exists in all of us. Now, here's your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant.
Welcome to CRN. It's Dr. Sarah Larson in the house, and I've got one of my favorite people in the world with me. And we are talking about the mysteries of Egypt. We have been in love with Egypt. I have been in love with Egypt since I was a very, very young child. And I saw the images. And my guest that I just traveled to Egypt with and led a workshop with happens to be, in my opinion, the cutest guy in the world. So welcome, Greg Larson, and thank you for bringing all your wisdom about Egypt here for us.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah Larson, for inviting me today to be on your show. Thank you.
For full disclosure, Greg Larson and I share a last name. We share 2 children, and we share marriage vows. And so this is my dear, delightful husband. And we've had the most magnificent experiences in Egypt. And it's been so profound that one of the things that we're working on is bringing the people that we love to Egypt. And why do you love Egypt? What moves you about Egypt?
That is a great question. As I reflect on our trip to Egypt, and I actually went for the first time back in 1992 when I was a college student, and that journey sparked a very profound spiritual transformation for me that year, which has stayed with me ever since and has led me down this amazing path, part of which has been meeting you and having this journey with you. And then when we were able to go back this past spring in late March and early April, I was so looking forward to it because Egypt has been in my awareness for as long as I know. I think, kids are taught about Egypt in storybooks, in picture books when they're very little. Yes. So most kids, at least in America or in the Western world, know about the pyramid and the Sphinx. These are like images and stories that have been with everybody with most people around the world. And
it kind of has this feeling of, I remember the first time I saw an image, I was blown away. And no matter what, even standing there, the awe of being at the pyramids and being at the Sphinx was incredible for so many reasons. On television was one thing. And then being there, this collective story that lives in our DNA, lives in all the generations before us because it's been there. It's what we trace ourselves to. So why do you love it so much?
You know what? As we were talking about earlier today, what is it that has such a power over us? Is that it's part of our ancient history. All humans. That's why we still remember it. That's why we still tell these stories because, what the Egyptians did affected the Greeks and the Romans. And what the Greeks and the Romans did, it affected the rest of Europe and the rest of the world because they went, the Greeks, Alexander the Great was everywhere in India. And so these stories were spread everywhere. And, for the Christians and Christianity, we just learned this last time, at least I did, this last trip to Egypt, that the story they have in Cairo, the Coptic Christians, is that when after Jesus was born, because the Romans at the time, or whoever it was, the firstborn son was to be found and killed. Mary and Jesus escaped to Egypt, and they hid out in this crypt, this underground crypt in Egypt, where we went, and it was like, wow, this is amazing.
Where so they hid out. And what's amazing is the ancient world had insights, spiritual insights, people that would fast and clear themselves to be able to give the leaders insights. And the Roman king at the time, the Roman leader at the time, was told that his leadership, the Roman Empire, would be brought down by a son, firstborn son in this era. And so they decided they were going to kill every firstborn son to not allow the prophecy to manifest. And so an edict, a law was passed across the land, and the firstborn baby, male, would be killed during these periods. Mary had the baby, the sacred baby the angel had told her about, and she knew that Egypt was the land of Moses, the land of miracles and magic. And there was no religion but there to protect. It was just the land of miracles and magic. So, of course, that's where she went. She found a place along the Nile that we got to take our group to this last time that we went to Egypt, to show them this exact area that she would have stood. And she stood there and found people that were willing to take her in and protect her and her newborn son in that area. And that's the reason that I love Egypt, is there is so much mystery there. We, to this day, do not have answers to these big, giant questions. But there is an effect that each of those places have on us. Even the images, seeing the images has this amazing effect of the pyramids, of the Sphinx, some of the temples, connecting with the Nile. Something happened to me, and what happened, I can't deny. When it happened directly to me, and being in these sacred, and they were sacred. The Greeks and the Romans labeled all of the carvings, the languaging that they gave it was sacred carvings. That's what hieroglyphs means. And today we're going to talk about the 8 mysteries.
So much to talk about,
it's so much history there, but we're going to bring it down to 8. And we're going to talk first, and hopefully we'll get through all of it, with the pyramids, starting in. So what is some of the key mystery with the pyramid that you want to get across?
You know what? There's so much. There's so many theories out there, and there's so many different scientists from different backgrounds trying to uncover the secrets of the pyramids, from like how it was built. They're still trying to figure out how was it built. They don't exactly know yet what was the steps they took to build it. Although they can surmise that they had such organization. Tens of thousands of people were working on the pyramid.
There are more stones in the pyramid than all the cathedrals in Europe. And each one of those stones weighs more than a car. And stacked up in complete precision that architects today cannot match. The way in which the precision of the stacking, the interior, they can't fit a razor blade in between the rocks.
Yeah, and the king's chamber, the Aswan granite, which is almost like floating within it's like a chamber floating within the pyramid.
Yes.
The Aswan granite, which is super hard rock, had to be brought several hundred miles away down the Nile. It's carved so precisely that you can't even fit a razor blade in between the grooves. It's the precision, and it's still that way today. It hasn't shifted in over 4,500 years.
Yes, it's amazing what comes through with the information. What was amazing is when we see these images which measure energy, there is a resonant energy that is being produced by this great big structure, larger than pretty much any other structure that emits energy. And it really helped me understand how we don't know a whole lot about energy and electricity and all of that information, and yet there is this structure that is producing a resonant frequency out. One of the cool things about the pyramid is it's 68 degrees all year round on the inside, and that's the average temperature of the earth is 68 degrees. And the shape of the ancient Egyptian pyramids has been thought to be inspired by the sun's rays. And the way that it's formulated, it really reflects the energy of the rays. And it's constantly emitting this frequency to where planes can't even fly over it. It affects navigational equipment. So and then the stories, the healing stories that happen when you're inside the pyramid. Will you share some of those?
We lead, it's not a journey to, where we inundate you with facts and dates and, this archaeologist discovered this. Our journey is a spiritual journey. So when we go to the various temples, we were there for 2 weeks. We went to all the major temples along the Nile. Then it culminated on the last day of our journey with a 2-hour private ceremony, or 2 hours of private time where we led ceremony in the Great Pyramid. So at 4 a.m. is when we entered the Great Pyramid, and we had 2 hours to be there. And so we went into the structure. We ascended the Grand Gallery, then up into the King's Chamber. And in the King's Chamber, there's a sarcophagus, or a coffin, made of Aswan granite, the same as the chamber itself. And the Aswan granite, or this sarcophagus, is created in a way where it, when you strike it, it emits the A note. Where if you're into spiritual information, we know that that's the third eye.
Opening the ability to see beyond just your own vision of things, your ability to connect with the mass consciousness and to read others as well as yourself, the grand field.
That's right. So the group is waiting in the Grand Gallery, which is amazing in itself. It's completely dark except for what we're using as flashlights. And so the group turned off all their flashlights, and then Sarah and our other leader, Greg Roach, is inside the King's Chamber, and they lead us in one by one. And one by one, we're taken over to the sarcophagus, and we're able to lay down in the sarcophagus. And as we're laying there, the group is oming, and it's such a powerful place. This is where, in the ancient Egyptians, this is where the pharaoh would have been laid. And the reason why the pharaoh was later, because would have been the prime space to ascend from earth into heaven.
And to bring the information of heaven into earth, and to have the ability to feel and connect and live as gods on earth. The information that God would want the leader of the land to have. This became a ceremonial process for allowing that information. And I think about how our lives, how we live like gods 100 years ago, like kings. The food that we eat, only kings got to eat the foods, bathe, enjoy life 200 years ago. Even the poorest of the poor in the United States or anywhere in the first world gets to experience what basically the music, the arts, the crafts, and we get to experience now these sacred places within Egypt that were only referred or available for those that were initiates that worked for years to earn the right to be there. And our group, we join with Quest Tours in Egypt, and we lead people for 2 weeks on this spiritual journey. Our next one coming up is March 6, 2016. We've only got room for a few people, 18 people, and we've already got 4 signed up to go with us. And we haven't done any promotional stuff. They've just heard the stories and said, yes, we're in. To Egypt and the Great Pyramid, this initiation that happens. We are sharing what happens there, the healing that it brings.
Deep healing.
The deep healing and the divine love that is available for you there. And more of that, good stories and divine love talk coming up in the next few minutes. Thank you for joining us, Greg Larson.
So welcome, Dr. Sarah Larson.
Lumber Liquidators has one of the best selections of top quality hardwood floors, and now we've got them for less with deals on over 400 gorgeous styles, including some of our most popular floors like pre-finished gunstock oak. It's a best-selling hardwood, and now it's just 99 cents. Or get the look of acacia with our thickest and best European laminate. It's a customer favorite, and it's also 99 cents. Get pre-finished hardwood from 49 cents. Plus, pay no interest until September 2016. For the flooring styles you want at a price you deserve, visit lumberliquidators.com to find a store near you.
Trying to sell your old car? Instead, donate your vehicle to Heritage for the Blind. Pickup is free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats, whether they run or not. Call right now and receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to over 50 locations. Call 1-800-785-9618. Donate your car today. That's 1-800-785-9618.
Experience a luxury boutique hotel escape in the heart of Laguna Beach, California. With the finest art gallery, shopping, dining, and nightlife just steps from your door. The heart of Laguna Beach, the edge of the sea. It's the Inn at Laguna Beach. Enjoy our comfortable rooms, blending the style of a timeless beach bungalow with the modern comforts of today. 70 newly appointed guest rooms and suites await you at the Inn at Laguna Beach. Then, relax at the rooftop bar, where you'll indulge in breathtaking views of the ocean. For dining, you'll find libations and local cuisine on the California coastline, including dining at the legendary Las Brisas, a Southern California landmark. The Inn at Laguna Beach, footsteps from room to village to sea, located in the heart of Laguna Beach. The Inn is within walking distance of all that Laguna Beach has to offer. No car required. The Inn at Laguna Beach, 211 North Coast Highway in Laguna Beach, California. Call 800-544-4479 or visit inatlagunabeach.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-351-8614. That's 800-351-8614. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-351-8614.
And we're back. It's Dr. Sarah Larson in the house, and we're talking about the mysteries of Egypt. And we're just so glad you're with us because we love this place that has been built for all of humanity. The pyramid, the only 7 wonder of the world, of the ancient world that's still standing. My guest in studio is the awesome and handsome and sexy Greg Larson, my dear and delightful husband and co-leader for these sacred journeys that we take groups on into Egypt with our partners in Egypt, Quest Tours. We're going
Quest
on
Travels.
Quest
actually.
Travels.
Quest Travels. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Quest
so
Travels.
Yeah.
What I love is the precision with which the hieroglyphs are laid out in these amazing temples that we journey through up and down the Nile. There are only 5% of Egypt is lived on. 95% is not. It's covered in sands. And every few years, something else magnificent gets unveiled. The Greeks, when they discovered, it might have been the Romans, when they discovered, I believe it was the Greeks, the hieroglyphs, they labeled them, hieroglyph means sacred carving, and they documented 700 different ones that were telling a story. U.S. has 26 in its alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's in our alphabet. The ancient Egyptians had 700 hieroglyphs in their catalog to make up sounds, words, to tell stories.
Tell stories, yeah.
And one of the magnificent things that helped tell the Egyptian story is the Rosetta Stone. And we were able to decipher the meaning that what happened for you when you saw the temple carvings?
Well, you should describe, because the Rosetta Stone is very important, because there was on the Rosetta Stones there's 3 different languages.
Yes.
And so because they were able to, they already knew the other languages, they were able to understand in a greater way what the hieroglyphs were saying. Yeah. So the Rosetta Stone was a very powerful discovery.
And again, the earth moved and the Rosetta Stone was found, and this beautiful stone was deciphered, and it said roughly the same thing in 3 different languages. Mm-hmm. And because it was one piece conveying the same message, and they were able to understand the 2 other languages to mean exactly, roughly the same message being conveyed, they then decided, oh, this is what the carvings mean. They took what they found from that and began creating the stories that were being told on these brilliant temples. So when something is written on paper, an ancient paper, papyrus, it can be burned. It can be lost. Anything written on metal, oh my gosh, can be melted down, can be changed over time, heat, expansion. Well, stone, these temples are all made of granite, limestone, hard substances. Water might have affected it to a little bit of wear and tear, but the carvings are still there, conveying the sacred stories, these sacred carvings still there, conveying a story. And one of the things that we're finding is most of the ancient carvings are more precise than we can even do today with lasers. And we couldn't find or describe how they made the precision carvings on these temples. And each of them symmetrical, perfectly carved, huge, greater than life carvings. So thank you for what else would you share about that?
The hieroglyphs, they're not so specific as far as communicating technical information in my understanding of them, but they're designed to share these grand stories. You know, the common people didn't write in hieroglyphs. It was something that was used by the scribes or by those in higher up positions to share, or by artists really, to share these grand stories, these epic stories of the gods of, Osiris and Isis and Horus and all the other gods that are in the Egyptian,
mythology and archetypes that are shared. When we come back, we're going to start sharing about some of those sacred stories that have played out over and over again. My guest in studio is Greg Larson, here with us to talk about Egypt. We are leading a tour to ancient Egypt coming up, and we're so glad that you're here. We're going to begin sharing some of the great stories that have affected us throughout time when we return. You're listening to Dr. Sarah Larson on Divine Love Talk. Thank you for being with us.
You're experiencing pain, back pain, shoulder, elbow, or hand pain from a sports injury. If so, schedule a visit with Dr. Michael Sheps, the leading expert in laser therapy for pain management. Call 310-873-4422 or go to drsheps.com. Experience Epic T, the breakthrough laser therapy system that Dr. Sheps developed to make you pain-free in less time. Laser therapy is a non-invasive, safe, and effective in-office procedure that penetrates deep into your skin without damaging the tissue. It perfectly targets areas of pain to promote fast, natural healing. Relax your muscles, ease muscle spasms, joint stiffness, and arthritis pain while increasing blood circulation. For over 25 years, Dr. Sheps has helped Olympic athletes and sports enthusiasts alike get back in the game. Schedule your visit with Dr. Sheps visit his Brentwood office in California. Call 310-873-4422 or visit drsheps.com. That's DRSHEPS.com. 310-873-4422.
Have you ever considered adding a home security system but thought it would be too expensive? Here's the good news. There's never been a more affordable time to help protect your home, valuables, and your loved ones. You can now get a $100 Visa card from Protect Your Home, your authorized ADT dealer, with the installation of a new ADT monitored system. Here's even better news. Your new system, worth $850, is free. You pay just a $99 installation charge and purchase monthly monitoring for less than $2 a day. Call Protect Your Home today at 1-866-669-8954. That's 1-866-669-8954. Get the peace of mind that comes with owning an ADT monitored system, plus a $100 Visa card from Protect Your Home. Call now, 1-866-669-8954. That's 1-866-669-8954. 36-month monitoring contract required. General terms and conditions apply. Visit protectyourhome.com/terms.
Are you nearing eligibility for Medicare benefits? Then you know now is an important time in your life. Medicare benefits can be a complicated puzzle. You don't want to overpay for your Medicare coverage or get the wrong plan. Let Health Markets Insurance Agency help you. With one free phone call, a licensed insurance agent will help you select a Medicare plan that's right for you and your budget. If you're becoming eligible for Medicare, call today and learn how to get the most out of your benefits.
800-793-1960. 800-793-1960.
Health Markets Insurance Agency is the DBA or assumed name of InSphere Insurance Solutions, Inc., which is an authorized insurance agency in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Not all agents are licensed to sell all products. Service and product availability varies by state.
Call 800-793-1960. 800-793-1960. 800-793-1960. 800-793-1960.
Geico is available 24/7. Unlike Billy, my boyfriend, who is apparently available 24/never. And with Geico's claim status update, after I report a claim, I receive update alerts through my Geico app. Did you hear that, Billy? Update. Alerts. I sure would like to be updated on why you can't return a text. Maybe I should just be dating Geico.
Claim status updates, just a few taps away on the Geico app.
Hi everyone, this is Tina Marie asking you to join me this and every Sunday for Critter Radio here on CRN. Call in, talk to me about your critters, animal questions, pet tips, and more every Sunday at noon. That's Critter Radio with Tina Marie every Sunday at noon here at CRN. Get more information at crntalk.com or facebook.com/tina.m.lithgow. Critter Radio with Tina Marie, Sundays at noon Pacific Time here on CRN.
And we're back. It's Dr. Sarah Larson. We are talking about the land of our ancestors, this beautiful, amazing, the river Nile that flooded over and gave us the most fertile soil, that developed agriculture, developed mathematics, architecture. All of the ancient arts can be traced back to this beautiful land. We're using the today to schedule my calendar. 365 days was invented by the Egyptians. They were the first ones to use it, with divided into 12 months. And there's so much we can thank them for. The stories that are written on the temples and the walls. One of the great things that happen as we're touring is we become the living story. We are doing the magic and the mystery school initiations that are written on the walls. And you lead much of that ceremony with the heart activations that you do.
Yeah, you know, the emphasis of what we do in Egypt is, you can take a journey there and be on a tour with a guide, and the guide will tell you about this. It was created in this date, and these are the historical facts. And although some of that is shared on our tour, what we focus on is the stories of initiation and transformation and ascendance. And then as we're sharing that, as we're inviting you into this story, that the Egyptians, because it was about everything they did, all the temples they built, the pyramid. When they built these huge structures, it wasn't a group of contractors, with a bunch of bankers, saying, here, how much money is it going to take to build this? How much money can we make from this? How long is the loan going to be? It was nothing to do with that. Every block, every carving with a chisel was intentional around getting to heaven. And so the intentional power behind every piece of construction is so much more deeper. And so if you can access it in that way, understanding that the entire, construction
rocks.
intention was about assisting humans with this, from this experience of life on earth into the afterlife.
And the story that's there on each of the walls, everyone that would have been able to touch or access the wall had to be trained, had to be born into the lineage, had to have a deep respect and love for what was being conveyed and shared. And it's one of the most sacred things that I've ever seen and experienced to lay my eyes on and to experience these sacred journeys as told by our guide, that as a young child, his home was right on top of one of the temples that was found. Emil's he studied Egyptology before it was cool to do so. He did it from inside as a teenager with love of the temples, love of what he was experiencing. And he is such a great storyteller to convey the stories that you will never find in a book, the feelings that are being expressed, and we become the living stories that we're seeing on the temples, on the walls. We become and have available the oils that are written about. We hear and experience and walk through in procession the way that the initiates that would lead the temples would walk through, or the way in which the pharaohs and the kings would arrive at these sacred temple spaces. These temples were used for multiple purposes, but the interior parts that we went into were only open once a year in ceremony, and to purify and clarify the messages that were written to be acted out in the lives of those that were seeing them, to guarantee access into heaven, the afterlife, to be most beautiful, available access. And further ones, we're going to talk about Dead Sea Scrolls coming up. Let's start it a little bit right now. The Dead Sea Scrolls, and also the Book of the Dead.
Well, the Book of the Dead, that's the essential one for Egypt.
The Book of the Dead is so beautiful. The reason that we're in California, we get to see these beautiful texts found, and there is a whole exhibit built here at the Science Center. And in Egypt, we get to see it. The Book of the Dead written on the walls in the land of the kings, where the kings are buried. You walk through these sacred chamber 1, gate 2, gate 3, and it talks about the Book of the Dead. And the Book of the Dead were spells and rituals that were acted out in order for that king, that pharaoh that's buried there, to have access to the best possible afterlife. And what was your experience with that?
Well, I had heard of the Book of the Dead before, but I never really understood it. And basically, after a person dies, then they're led on this journey to go through these different gates. And so the Book of the Dead is these set of instructions and spells to help with this journey. And the last part of this journey is you come to a place where your heart is placed on a scale, and on the opposite end of that scale is a feather. And so your heart is measured against the weight of a feather. And so if your heart is lighter than the feather, you ascend into heaven and live this glorious afterlife. And if your heart is heavier than the feather, then you're devoured by a demon. And so there's
crocodile.
There's all this emphasis on purifying yourself in life. So when after you die, you go on this journey and you want your heart to be lighter than a feather. And so life is about purifying yourself, is about being sacred, is about honoring the gods, honoring the story of the gods of Egypt, so you can be pure of heart when you die, so you can go on this journey and be, your heart be weighed against the weight of a feather. And then from there you ascend into the afterlife.
And so much of our culture, many of the stories told in different Bibles and have our heart being measured by a feather. And there are 12 different gates and great stories shared. The ancient Egyptians didn't value the brain. They didn't value the organ that is called the brain. They valued and stored the heart. They valued and stored other organs in these jars because that would be valuable in the afterlife. And their ability to create what was out in the cosmos. And in the Temple of Hathor, what we saw on the ceilings, bright, colorful, and that brings us to our next mystery, is they've got the constellations that represent all of the astrology, all of that on the temple walls, on the ceiling.
On the ceiling,
beautifully carved out with these different being carried across the sky. They knew the exact location and how to convey that in art, in pictures on the ceilings. And each person that came with us stood underneath our astrological sign, underneath these sacred carvings, carried out the purification process to have that signature of our birthday under that astrology, mirroring the effect coming down and affecting our body to purify, to envision carrying what all of the stars were carrying at the time. And so what was it like for you to stand in some of those temples, and in the Temple of Hathor, the Temple of Horus, and what was that like?
Well, I think the best way to sum it up is our guide, Emil, he could have shared some of this information and said, no, I really want you to understand this.
Yes.
But he didn't say that. He didn't say, I want you to understand it with your mind. He said, after he shared what it was we were looking at, he said, no, I want you to feel it. Feel what this is. Because it's not, what we emphasize is not about understanding anything, which I think is kind of entertaining.
Yes.
So this is not a trip about entertaining you about the facts of Egypt. This is a trip where you feel the power of what they were doing, of what they were involved in, because they were not distracted by technology. They were not distracted by, trivial things of life. Literally, there was such a focus on purifying yourself and preparing yourself for the afterlife that everything was so intentional and sacred, and they were trying to activate the human experience at a deeper and deeper and deeper level so you could have a pure heart, a light heart.
And access to more of yourself.
Access to more of yourself. That was
the ones that built the pyramids, the ones that did the sacred carvings. We still can't do that today. Oh. And what is amazing about that building, about the conveying that message, was about accessing your own power in your own life, to have more time and access available to what they felt was truly important, this purification. And they understood energy, obviously, better than we do right now. Their energy, the way that they lived, they were able to create so much from the temples, the pyramids, these sacred building spaces. And the next mystery of Egypt is how the temples were built in alignment to perfectly reflect parts of the body. Each of the temples on the sacred journey, unless they discovered something older and more sacred below it or around it, each of the temples was built, each of the burial spots, each of them built to represent the human body to be a vessel to carry God's energy. And one of the mysteries also is the Egyptians actually believed in one God, and they redefined aspects of that one God with different names and different properties and different ways of being, but they believed in one God and gave that God multiple thousands of names to really accentuate that one particular quality of God that was and is everything to the ancient Egyptians and even current day Egyptians that are practicing in the temples, practicing in and studying these mysteries for us that get to visit, for us that are truly interested. We're leading a tour March 6, 2016. It is all over Facebook. Our love for Egypt, our pictures. Divine Love Talk is a Facebook page. You can find links to Greg Larson, links to myself, Dr. Sarah Larson, links to the upcoming trip. Each of us have a Facebook fan page. Mine is just my name, Dr. Sarah Larson, where I've put up 99 facts about Egypt that would be fun. Some of the sacred carvings. Greg's Facebook fan page is called Living with Tole, or you can find us each on our just as our names. If you're interested in the things that we love, we want you to have access to them. So we keep putting them up. What else would you like to convey about the temples?
Well, as you mentioned, if you're looking at the temples from a bird's eye view, looking, from above them, they are lined, or this is what they discovered recently, or not recently, but
within the last 50 years.
They're going back there. It's like it's lined to the human body. So you enter at the feet,
yes.
Then you walk through the body, and at the very end, where the head would be, there is the most sacred of sacred spaces, where the most, the hardest rock, the most beautiful jewels, most beautiful paintings, carvings. That's where that would be. And those spaces were open only once a year for this, reactivation to
reactivate the temple. The pharaoh, the leader of the land, the king would come and be blessed, washed, anointed, walk in, receive the activation from the eyes of the living God that was in that space, from the keepers of the temples. And only the holiest of holies would go in. And that was the first part of the temple that was built. And then it would go out, further and further out. And the interior was constantly worked on and blessed. And the exterior, leading all the way to the feet, would be worked on last. And common people would only be allowed to possibly see the feet and enter into the courtyard that once a year. And the dignitaries led in, and the king all the way into the center.
And just a few people, the highest initiates, priests, and the ruler, the pharaoh, would be allowed to those areas. And that's where we would go and do ceremony. And so that's what this journey is about, is going to those spaces again, not to be captivated by the history, but to access the energy that's still there in ceremony for our own transformation.
We are so excited to share with you more about that. More mysteries of Egypt coming up when we return. I'm with Greg Larson. My name is Dr. Sarah Larson. You're listening to Divine Love Talk on CRN. We want you to have this information. We want you to have access to this because we want you to know your own power, to know your own purity and sacredness. And we would love to engage with you on Facebook and continue the conversation. When we come back, more mysteries of Egypt. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Hi, folks. This is Larry Minetti. And many of you out there suffer from skin problems. Well, I've been telling you for months how to solve that problem. It's called Herpanicin. It's the most unique and effective formula on the market. It cleans your skin from the inside out. It gets rid of all kinds of acne on your back, your neck, your face, so you can feel and you could look like a movie star. Herpanicin is a natural supplement. It was created by Dr. Wayne Diamond and his staff, and trust me, this really works. I've been on these supplements for over a year now and never had a problem. There is no reason in the world to wake up and be afraid to look in the mirror. You trust Larry. Just try it. Call 888-467-4200. 888-467-4200.
Did you know that with a bachelor's degree, on average, you can make almost twice as much over a lifetime than a person with just a high school diploma? Yes! According to the U.S. Census Bureau, you can make almost twice as much. Going back to college is now easier than ever. There are select online colleges that provide laptops to their students. In fact, there are thousands of college programs on your laptop. You can go to college anywhere and everywhere right from a laptop. Call My College Laptop and you can find hundreds of programs from accredited colleges and universities nationwide. Start a new career in law enforcement, business, information technology, healthcare, and hundreds of others. Call My College Laptop to find an online college that will provide you with a laptop. In no time at all, you can double your earning potential. Double your earning potential. Call now. 1-800-582-7531. That's 800-582-7531. 800-582-7531.
Trying to sell your old car? Instead, donate your vehicle to Heritage for the Blind. Pickup is free and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats, whether they run or not. Call right now and receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to over 50 locations. Call 1-800-785-9618. Donate your car today. That's 1-800-785-9618.
My name is Larry Elder, also known as the Sage from South Central Los Angeles. Join me weekdays right here on CRN Digital Talk at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. I will engage political and cultural leaders in meaningful debate over race, government, personal responsibility, and education. I'm a fiscal conservative, social liberal, and my views have fueled controversy with the most in-demand radio personalities and cable pundits all across the country. So join me, Larry Elder, right here on CRN Digital Talk weekdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific.
Welcome back, and we are Divine Love Talk. You're listening to Dr. Sarah Larson and Craig Larson in the house. Woo! Craig Larson and I lead tours to Egypt, and we are sharing with you some of the mysteries of Egypt. Ancient Egyptian women had more power than current women do. They were allowed and did so much more, equal and beyond that, the goddesses in Egypt. We are sharing, we lead trips to Egypt, and we are inviting you to come with us. The last two groups that we took, one, severe depression. Her husband had died, and re-access to her life in every shape and form. It was the work of standing in these places and purifying and allowing the energy, these sacred carvings, the energy of the land to transform. It was amazing for each of the groups what wound up happening. What did you witness with?
The transformation is there because these places were designed for transformation, for ascendance, for activating higher levels of the human experience. And even though those were done in a certain way 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, that energy is still there. And so that's what we make you aware of. It's not coming to entertain you with dates and information and facts. It's to support your transformation. And from the testimonials that we've received, it's a radical transformation that is experienced because there's such immense love that we harness on this trip.
And it is an activation at every level. You feel it. Yeah. You feel the awakening happening in your body, the purification, the years of life, multiple lives, if you believe in that sort of thing, falling off and allowing you to really access the energy that's been available for all time.
Yeah, one of the participants who joined us this last time had almost like an ancestral healing. It's like he was healing generations going back.
His family had lost someone on the Nile, and he wasn't even told of the story until he was going on this trip by his parents. And he changed his sleeping pattern afterwards. He said, I'd never slept quite like I have 40-something years of not sleeping. And now he's able to rest after the sacred journey that was on the Nile, healing this ancestral part of the family. And each person had some experience, ancestral healing that occurred because this is the land of our ancestors. Mystery, a high percentage of us, almost like 90%, can trace ourselves back to Cleopatra, who was the last great leader and the last great pharaoh, female pharaoh in Egypt. Cleopatra and all that she did there, we can all trace ourselves pretty much back to her, most of humanity. And you are listening to Dr. Sarah Larson, Greg Larson. We're going to continue the conversation on Facebook. Please find us, Divine Love Talk. And Dr. Grant should be back next week to share more of the insights that will transform your life. If you're ready to join us in Egypt, please send us a message. We would love for you to come. Thank you, Greg Larson.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah Larson.
You are just as cute in person as you are on the radio. Thank you all for joining us and joining our love story, the love we have of Egypt, the love we have for each other, and the love we have for you, because we understand our oneness and how you being happy brings us more joy, because our belief on Divine Love Talk is we are all one, and you being happier allows us to have access to that as well. So thank you, Divine Love Talk. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Greg Larson.
Which was most appropriate because that was your theme.
Are you tired of hearing your favorite talk radio show sound like this? What if you could hear your favorite shows in crystal clear, high definition digital sound? Well, with